Nicole. Yeah, so, and we're intentionally, as we share this evening, we are going to, Alex is going to walk us through how to find some of this information on our school district website pretty quick. And we're gonna share a bunch of stuff that is available to you. Our intention is to give you kind of a broad overview and then spend a big bunch of our time tonight answering your questions. We want to make sure that you get the information that you came here to find out tonight. Please know that if we don't get to all of the questions tonight, all of us are also super easy to find, and we'll make sure that our contact information is available as well for any follow-up after. So with that, I might turn it over to Alex to get us going.
Okay, good evening, everyone. So yes, I'm Alex Quisberg. I am a learning coordinator and also a classroom teacher in the district. I spent many years as a kindergarten teacher, although this year I'm teaching grade 1, 2, and I'm happy to be here to share a little bit about some of the programs that you can access prior to coming to kindergarten, and some things that will make the transition smooth, and also what a typical day in kindergarten might look like. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen, and I already practiced this, so I should be okay here. And there we are. So right now I have us on the Nanaimo Ladysmith School District web page, and you can find this by either just Googling the Nanaimo Ladysmith School District, or the address is up in the bar. And once you're on this page, you're going to come over, and the first thing that I would like to share is Ready, Set, Learn. Some of you may already be familiar with the Ready, Set, Learn events that have been happening throughout the year. I'm sharing this right away because there's only one more event, and it's an opportunity for families and children to come into a school in the evening for a pizza and play for preschool age children, so ages 3 to 5. This is just a great fun event that is all about play, and there's only one more left. There's one happening tonight at Georgia, and on Thursday we have a Ready, Set, Learn event happening at Randerson Ridge from 5 to 6:30. So if you're able to come, it's a great opportunity to get together some other children and families for some pizza and fun. So now I'm going to jump in to show you where some things are on the web page. We're going to start by going to our under school.
Excuse me, Alex, sorry, I might just invite participants to double check that they're muted. I think we have a couple of people with a bit of background noise. Yeah, thank you so much.
So under schools here, under NLPS programs, we have something called Strong Start Early Learning Center. Now, Strong Start, if we click here, there are 8 different Strong Start sites in our district, and this is an opportunity for families to come into a parent participation sort of preschool environment that are inside of the schools. So this is a wonderful chance to get your child familiar with what the school looks like on the inside, what the bathrooms look like, the sounds that happen during the day. Sometimes the bells at different schools can be, quite surprising. So getting familiar just with that environment and some of the people, it's great. This is a free program. And if I scroll down, we have all of the locations of the Strong Start centers. They're run by early childhood educators, and it's a drop-in. So the hours are 9 to 12, but if you would just like to come for an hour, you can just come and stay for a half an hour, or stay the whole time. The early childhood educator at times will be running different activities that might be the whole group sharing stories and songs, or setting up some explorations and play centers. This is a great opportunity to spend time with other children and meet other families and get into an environment that is quite similar to a kindergarten classroom. So we encourage, if possible, finding one of these centers to go to. In order to register, you can do this online, or you can just show up at one of the centers, and there are paper registration forms that you could fill out once you're there. So a really great opportunity, lots of fun, and over at the Frank J and McGurr Strong Starts are doing Forest Fridays, which is a nice opportunity too, to, if you want to be in more of an open environment, to go and meet the leaders in the forest for some activities. All right. And now, another opportunity that will be coming up after you've registered for kindergarten is the Welcome to Kindergarten event. Now, you will be receiving an invitation from the school that you have registered at for an event at the school, which will be happening sometime in May or June. So I'm just going to bring us over to the kindergarten page. If we go to schools, we can go to kindergarten students. And now you're going to become the Coming to Kindergarten page. And there is a lot of information here. You can spend a lot of time exploring. If any of the questions that weren't answered, you can always come to this website or this webpage here for more information. So for the Welcome to Kindergarten event, each school will run this a little bit differently. So you'll be invited to come and meet with all of the other kindergarten families. You will meet the teacher, the principal, and there will be activities set out for the children and you to participate with. You will also receive a play pack with ideas on how to engage with some of the play materials prior to coming to kindergarten. This is a great opportunity, again, to come in and see the school, to feel what it's like to be in the kindergarten with the other kindergarten students. You might be able to make some social connections with your child during this event. And it's a great chance to ask some questions and get to know more information about what to expect in the fall.
Alex, I'm just going to jump in for a second too, because I know there may be some families on the call tonight who you know that your children would find that type of event quite complex at this point. I know we have some kiddos that have sensory needs, or they have other needs that might make it hard to come into a room full of strangers and do that kind of an event. Please know that we still really value a connection with you and your child before school starts. And if it's more appropriate for you to visit at a time where you are the only ones in the room and you have a quiet moment to talk with the teacher, or you need a little bit of flexibility around time, schools are very open to planning conversations and moments with you. So please don't shy away if Welcome to K isn't quite the right fit for you and your child at this time. Absolutely, we can do a version of it for your family, and it's something we actually really welcome and encourage if that's something that you would like to try.
Thank you, Carrie. Absolutely. And the play packs, we can arrange to have those so that you can still access getting the play packs and all of that information as well. On this Coming to Kindergarten webpage, there's a great little video here that is a little peek inside the kindergarten classroom in the kindergarten day. One of the teachers, kindergarten teachers at Fairview, speaks to what it's like to teach kindergarten, and even watching this with your child, so your child can see the children engaging in different play activities in the classroom, can be a nice experience. So that's a wonderful resource right there. If you have not registered for kindergarten, you can find the online registration here. If you require some support with that, you can reach out to to Carrie or myself or Diane, and we can support in getting the registration done or knowing what steps there are. But if you're already registered, there's no need. And then the next thing that we'll talk about is gradual entry. So sometime during the summer, you will receive an email that will give you the information about gradual entry. So for all kindergarten students, there's we'd like to have them coming for small amounts of time, spent coming in and having welcoming conversations with family and teachers in order to make that transition as smooth as possible. The first day of the welcoming conversations will be the first Wednesday in September, which is Wednesday, September 4th. You will find out when and where these conversations will take place, but it's an opportunity for families and your child to sit down with the kindergarten teacher and potentially in small groups. It depends on the school and on the teacher on what these welcoming conversations look like. But again, if you would like to have a conversation with yourself and the teacher, that can always be arranged. And so just let the school know if that is your preference. If the school is doing small groups, just let them know, and there will be room to have individual conversations with the kindergarten teachers. So those welcoming conversations will happen over 2 days, and then there will be an opportunity for students to be coming in for small amounts of time, and in some cases in small groups, so that the teachers can get to know the children, and that it's in not such an overwhelming manner, where it might be for an hour for the first time with a group of 10 students. And then gradually over a week, the time will increase, or the amount of students may increase. This again is going to look different for each school and each different context. So depending on the community, depending on the teacher and what the teachers have decided together, this is going to be unique to each school. But the information about this will be coming in the summer in an email. And again, as Carrie said, if there are any, if you find that this might be not a suitable situation for your child, then you can always come and have a conversation and really work out what will be best for you and for your child. As well, the gradual entry ends, and the first full day of kindergarten is scheduled for Wednesday, September 11th. However, if you feel that you would like a longer or an extended gradual entry, that is absolutely okay. And just having a conversation and working out a schedule that will suit your child best, that can be arranged. And Carrie may want to talk more about that.
You beat me to it. So for sure. And we have parents every year that want to extend that gradual entry period. And absolutely, we want to partner with you. The other thing that sometimes happens is we have kiddos who gradual entry actually doesn't provide the support that it's designed to provide for them, right? For lots of our kids, coming in little pieces and smaller groups and acclimating to the space is really helpful. We know that there are children who, if it's a different grouping of children every day, or the time of day is different, or the length of time is different, it's actually going to be quite destabilizing and difficult for them. So like Alex says, please don't assume that the schedule that arrives is the only option that we have for your child to start the year. We do want to work with you. You know your child best. And if there are things that you know are going to make the start to school more successful and supportive, please don't hesitate to speak up. We're super happy to have those conversations and figure out what we can do. We've had kiddos that actually don't come through gradual entry at all, and they just start on that second Wednesday because they need to begin with the thing that's going to look the same tomorrow. So that, also is totally fine if that's the right fit for your child. Thanks, Alex. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump on you there.
No, that's great. No, Carrie, that's perfect. Thank you. So after gradual entry, and actually that was a perfect segue, because we're going to talk about the typical day in kindergarten. And one of the main important aspects of kindergarten is that routine. We really know the benefits of a clear routine for all students, knowing what to expect each day. And as much as possible, the kindergarten day is very routine. When I used to go as a TTOC and I would go into a kindergarten class, I knew right away that every child in that class knew exactly what the plan was. And if I went off track, nope, we know exactly what we're doing and when we're supposed to be doing it. So the routines may differ from each different classroom, each different school, but your child's class will have a very clear routine throughout the day. Generally, that is when they arrive at school, they go in, they're changing their shoes, they'll have a spot to hang their things, and it might be that every morning the teacher does a soft start, which means they may have activities put out for the child to select. In another classroom, their morning routine may be gathering at the carpet and doing a check-in. So whatever that is, it'll generally be the same every day, which is a nice and predictable way for children to start the day. After that, the activities we do in kindergarten are all based in play. Our kindergarten program is grounded in a few different frameworks, and at the bottom of the page, you can go and download these. These are from the Ministry of Education. So in BC, we're very lucky that our early years is very the support. We promote doing things in playful ways and learning through play because we know the benefits of it and how it creates a very inclusive environment for everyone. In these documents, one of these is the BC Early Learning Framework. This guides our holistic approach to teaching children and to building relationships with families and really meeting our students where they are and our children where they are and supporting them to grow. As well, we have the Let's Play and the Play Today handbooks, which share ideas on how to learn in playful ways, what activities we can do to develop not only academic skills, social, emotional, all of these things. So your child will be very tired at the end of the day because they do spend their day playing and interacting. Our ABCs and 1, 2, 3s, most of that teaching is done in very interactive and playful ways. There's games and songs, and even when we're together at the carpet, reading stories, we create lots of opportunities for the children to be engaging in the lessons through physical literacy, through playing along. There's so much opportunity for interaction, collaboration, and play. Again, when we're gathering in whole groups, you all, if you go into a kindergarten classroom, you will often hear songs that are revisited again and again, and you may hear them at home many times. A lot of transitions may be done with songs. We found that that's really successful in kindergarten. So you might be hearing a cleanup song or something that helps the students to transition from activities. Poems, dancing, all sorts of fun and interactive ways to explore the curriculum. In kindergarten, you also have time for choice. This could be called free time, exploration centers. This is a time for students to really engage in activities that are of interest, where they can make choices and have agency over what they're doing during their day. In some kindergarten classrooms, there may be activities set out or toys set out that the students choose from. And in others, it may be that the students know that they are able to choose whatever they want during that time. There are still structures around this. It may be limited to a certain amount of students. And yeah, but it's a really nice time for us as teachers to get to know our students and their interests and their strengths. As well, outdoor play. Each day, children will be going outside for recess. There are 2 recesses. There's a short recess that's 15 minutes and a long recess that is around 35 minutes. On days that are a little rainy, students will still be going outside. So it's important that we dress for the weather and are always prepared to be going outside. If the weather is really extreme, they may have an inside day, but always sending your child prepared to go outside. Additionally, in kindergarten, their teachers may be taking opportunities to do learning outside. A lot of classrooms do something called Wilderness Wednesdays, where they spend an extended period of time going to an area outdoors to do learning. Snack and lunch. There'll be an opportunity to have snack in the morning around recess and also lunch either before going out for long recess or after coming in. So when you're packing, we'll talk a little bit more about lunches and snacks in a moment, but trying to find a way to have a little compartment of maybe like, these are your snack foods, these are your lunch foods. Not necessary, there is always somebody there to help, but knowing that there's going to be 2 different times where they can access. And of course, if a child is hungry at a different time of day or needing food at a different time, there's flexibility within that as well. For science and social studies, kindergarten teachers love to engage in inquiry. I know around the spring right now, there's a lot of worms happening when you find the worms outside, and then the teacher may follow that interest in finding a worm outside and start to learn more about worms. And so it's really, really open-ended. In one classroom, they may be learning about worms. In the other classroom, they may be growing sunflowers. So it's really nice opportunity if you as a parent have a special interest that you can share with the class. I know the kindergarten teachers are always looking for parents to be sharing their interests and their strengths as well with the class. Quiet time activities in the afternoon, generally after lunch and long recess. Kindergarten teachers arrange to have activities that are a little low key, quieter, coloring, looking at books, just relaxing. Sometimes the classroom teacher will lower the lights or put on some calm music. It's an opportunity for the students to sort of regulate their bodies after being outside and running around and all of the excitement of lunchtime. So this is something that all students can expect. And in addition to the activities within their own classroom, students will also go to the library and they can borrow books to bring home, and they may get to know their librarian. And in some schools, children will go to another room for music and potentially have a music teacher. At my school, we teach our own music, and gym as well. 2 to 3 times a week, the class will have access to going to the gym for some activities with balls and gross motor, running around and getting out that energy and learning how to be safe in that space. So I'm going to continue down. And then at the end of the day, generally, same thing as the morning routine, the children will have a closing routine where they pack up their things and come together, potentially singing a song, doing a check-in on how the day went, some reminders, and then you'll be collecting your child at school, wherever the teacher tells you that that will happen. We come down here to the frequently asked questions. Washrooms is always a big question. So some kindergarten classrooms have a washroom in the room that's attached, and some have a washroom that is maybe just close down the hallway. Whatever the situation is, the kindergarten teachers will have some way of supporting the children in getting there. So maybe a buddy system if it's down the hallway a little bit, or having another, always making sure that the students know where the washroom is. One way the kindergarten teachers will do this is that before any transition, maybe walking the class down, anybody needing to use the washroom and waiting there, and while all of the children go and come back while they're getting to know school. We're really good at noticing and reminding students to use the washroom. If there are any toileting concerns, we are there to support. That this should not be a barrier to coming to school. I know as a parent, when my child was going to kindergarten, I was thinking about toileting things, and we know that it can be a source of stress, but really we're all there to support your child, and any supports that they do need, you can just talk to us and we'll figure out a way to best support them. And we're working towards independence for all students, but we do understand that every situation is different, and our job is to, all kids are ready to come to school, and for this definitely not to be a barrier. Any specific questions around this? Carrie may want to speak to this a little bit further. We do have, and this is a nice opportunity to go into the schools for Strong Start programs, where you can go in and see the washrooms and sort of know what to expect, and for your children to know what to expect. There's also this document you can find on the page, and you can download it so that you can see it in a larger format. But this shows the different types of washrooms that you might find in the school, what they might look like. Talking about the automatic flushing, I know that this, for a lot of kindergarten students, can be surprising. And sometimes, kindergarten students are not wanting to go into the bathroom for fear that they're going to hear the automatic flush if that's the case. So going in and having as much experience with that prior to coming to kindergarten, it would be really good. The different types of dryers, all of those experiences. Another frequently asked question around recess breaks, and I talked a little bit about that. We have two, one short, one long. There are supervisors out on the playground, and kindergarten students will, in the beginning of the year and maybe all year, will wear pinnies so that all of the duty or the supervisors out on the playground can identify who the kindergarten children are, to if see somebody on their own, a way to wrap them in, or to try to help join a group or find a buddy to play with. Also, kindergarten students in the beginning of the year will be limited to a certain area. So potentially it might be the primary playground, wherever that is, so that close eyes can be on them, and so that the students know as well that the duty supervisors wear bright vests so that we're easy to locate. Shoes, backpacks, lunch materials. For shoes, as much as possible, again, teachers are going to help if a student can't get their shoes on and off independently. That's okay. Somebody will be there to help them. Having Velcro makes it easier and is preferable. Having non-skidding running shoes is very beneficial for everyone. Choosing a backpack. Backpacks can be really huge. So trying to choose one that your child, if able, can carry their backpack, that it's large enough to fit their lunch pail into, and maybe a book if they're getting a library book. Their lunch kits and containers. There's also super lunch kits and containers. Finding something that fits into the backpack. If it's a paper bag, that's great. Whatever it is, trying to get one that fits into the backpack is the best. Sometimes you get these big thermos ones that it becomes difficult, and then it's something else to carry, and in my son's case, something else to lose. So trying to find, we can show, there will be examples at the Welcome to Kindergarten if you attend that, examples of what that can look like. And having a change of clothes labeled with your child's name. This is for everyone. If you can send them, your kindergarten teacher will probably let you know if they want them in a Ziploc bag, but always having a change of clothes is great for all students. And dress to get messy. I think that that's the one thing. Yeah, don't pick the fanciest clothes, because the children are playing all day and with art materials and outside, and they're bound to come home with stuff on them. So just to be prepared for that. And the last thing that I'm going to talk about quickly is busing. So there's busing available, and I think actually I might pass this to Carrie, because I believe that their accessible busing is something that Victoria can talk about.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you. So if your child's, if you're hoping to have your child on the bus and they are somebody who could sit in a community of kiddos on a busy bus and ride with all of their peers, our kindergarten students are welcome on the buses. I know lots of times they have, if they have a sibling, that's even easier, but big buddies and other kids on the bus often take them under their wing, and they're pretty comfy and safe on there. But if your child has needs that are such that you're concerned about kind of the regular bus being their transportation, it is important. A couple of pieces about the accessible busing are important to know. One is that our accessible bus routes are a little bit limited. So we only have a few buses, and they need enough time to get, it is a service that's to kind of driveway to door of the school and back home at the end of the night. So we can only get to so many places in a day and have kids get to school for enough of the school day that they're having a meaningful experience when they're there. So we do prioritize children with mobility needs on the accessible routes, particularly our kiddos in wheelchairs. If your child either has a mobility need that doesn't involve a wheelchair, or some other kind of need that you feel would be best supported through the accessible busing, we have lots of other kids on the routes, but we have to do it as kind of accommodating, like the physical routes and the scheduling and everything arise. So my suggestion would be to reach out as soon as possible to let us know that you're interested, and to share your address with us. So I coordinate that off of my desk, and typically the schools will be working directly with parents that they know. But if you're new to us and you don't have a a connection with your child's school yet, you could reach right out to me and I would start the conversation with transportation. There's a separate application process for that because we need to know if there's any special equipment or supervision needs that are required, and we work through that process together. But we do have accessible busing, and this is the time of year we start to talk about it. So anytime in the next 6 weeks or so would be a great time to reach out and get some more information about that. Thanks, Alex. So I think we might be ready to head to the other page now. Yeah, great. Thank you. So I know many of you who've joined us this evening do have kids with diverse abilities and disabilities, and you may be wondering about some of the supports above and beyond the beautiful inclusive opportunities that Alex was describing in our classrooms to this point. So there is Alex has clicked to the All Kids Go to School page. It has a little bit more information specifically about kids with additional needs. I'm going to speak to a couple of pieces in a bit of a high level way this evening because it is very individual when we start providing support for our kiddos. But just so you're aware, the tab that you can see on the screen here where it says what are inclusive education services in the orange box there, if you link to that, it brings you to a pamphlet that you can download with some of this information. Really the piece, if you want kind of what is your starting point with the school, every school has a thing they call the school-based team. The standing members on the school-based team are the school's principal or vice principal, the inclusion support teacher, the school counselor. There's a child and youth care worker. We have a speech and language pathologist part-time at our schools, and also a school psychologist who's available to the schools as well. So they're kind of the standing members on that team. And then if we have a student who is of Indigenous ancestry, then our Indigenous cultural support worker would join when we were meeting about an Indigenous learner, and the classroom teacher would always come. School-based team is not typically a place where parents meet. Usually that's the kind of problem-solving body at the school where they would kind of begin the conversation about what would happen next, and a meeting with families would happen either before or after that process. But that team exists all the time, and typically they meet every week. So if you have a question about a need that your child's experiencing, or a situation that's occurred, or a wonder you have about something, always go to your classroom teacher. Classroom teacher is the person who can do the referral to the school-based team. So that team, whether your child is formally designated with an individual education plan or not, and I know sometimes our kindies, you're still in the midst of diagnostic and assessment processes, and you don't actually have all of the information that you may have down the road regarding your child, but you know you have questions, and you know that you have a hope for them to have more support. Any child who is registered in the school can be brought to school-based team, and the team can do some problem solving around how to wrap around whatever the concern or question is that you have. If your child is supported by a specific individualized plan, so whether that's, for example, if your child has autism or has a cognitive disability of some kind, then they probably will have an individual education plan. And the ministry has categories. So like, for example, if you have autism, it's category G. If you have a mild intellectual disability, that's category K. But we have lots of kids who we support who do not meet specific criteria for a ministry designation. We have, and I'm realizing we have some old language on the website. Actually, I have to clean it up. It says student support plan there. We now call them learning plans. The ministry changed the name of them a year or so ago. But those learning plans can provide the same support that an IEP does. It's an individualized plan with goals, objectives, strategies. It will identify the kind of point person who's in charge of your child's program and supports. Learning plans typically are managed by the classroom teacher, but always in partnership with an inclusion support teacher. Individual education plans, or IEPs, you will have a specific case manager assigned to your child if they have an IEP, and that will be either an inclusion support teacher or the school's counselor typically. And that becomes kind of your point of contact for questions around support and interventions and things. But it's a team effort. And so if your child does have a specific support need and a support teacher's involved, there may also be support from an education assistant. Some of our kiddos will have an EA who works with them all day. Most of the kids will have shared EA support if they require it. So we often will have an EA who's part of a classroom environment and works with all of the kiddos in the room who need specific EA support. Where there's safety considerations, significant mobility needs, if you've worried that your child will run out of the classroom or out of the building or off of the property, we have practice with that. We have kiddos who have really, really quick feet and curious minds. And so we do have staff that are used to supporting kids with those types of needs. And the team at the school will definitely wrap around you. So that pamphlet, if you download it, it gives you a bit of the flow chart for school-based team. It would take quite a bit to go through all of it tonight. I welcome individual questions. It's difficult to answer things globally. If you have specific questions, like I encourage you to reach out to the school or to me, and I'm happy to field individual questions and help give you a better sense of what your child's support may look like moving into the fall. A couple of specific pieces though, Alex did mention toileting support. Your child does not need to have an IEP to receive toileting support or support with other personal care or feeding or dressing or any of those things. We really want all of our kiddos at school with us, and we are happy to work with you on the support that they may need to do that successfully. If you have a child who requires extra supervision outside, maybe they're fine navigating the classroom and they're going to be able to, follow the group plan in the classroom, but outside you're a little bit worried they're going to go beyond the edges of the playground. We do have a way to support and provide supervision there as well. So sometimes families will identify they think their child would benefit from EA support. And that while that's helpful for us, actually what's more helpful is letting us know more about your child and their needs and what your hopes and dreams and questions are, because we do have such a variety of support available at school that it may be that an EA would be the individual that we would identify to support that need, but it might actually be that we look to our child and youth care worker or inclusion support teacher or some kind of strategic grouping with one of the other intervention options we have in the building. So help us get to know your child, and we promise we'll work with you to figure out what supports are most needed. I do want to spend a minute or two on school age therapy because that is quite different for a lot of families. The early intervention program is structured very differently from school age therapy, and it can catch people off guard sometimes. So in terms of the speech language pathology support, when you come to school, we have SLPs who work with the school district. Their time is a little bit more limited than in community settings typically. So most of our kiddos will receive a bank of support at some point. They might get a 6 or 8 week intervention block. And if more support is required outside of that, then there may be practice offered for home. If you're working with a speech pathologist outside of school, our team will partner with the people outside of school to make that service as seamless as possible. But it's not very often that a child would receive weekly intervention for the full duration of the school year. We just don't have the staffing capacity, unfortunately, to be able to sustain that with all of the needs in the system. Having said that, if your child is working with an OGCOM device, so if you have an iPad or a Dynavox or one of the speech output tools that SpeechPass introduced to our kiddos, that would receive ongoing support. So while it might not look like weekly intervention, it would absolutely look like all kinds of consultation with you, with any EA who might be supporting your child, with your child's classroom teacher, and we all will work together to make sure your child practices their voice and gets access to that device. Occupational and physical therapy at school is largely around a consultative model. So our PTs definitely will be in the schools helping if we have a child who needs lift or transfer support. If there's a physical exercise program required at school, they will come in and do the training. They'll make sure that the team at the school knows how to do the things that need doing. But we don't provide like weekly therapeutic intervention through occupational therapy or physiotherapy at school. Again, it's just a very limited resource, and the model shifts a little bit once you move into the school age therapy program. We also have really limited capacity for assessments for OT and PT at school. So if we have a significant question related to their educational pathway or their access to the school environment, they will work with us around those things and support assessments for that purpose. But we don't have the capacity to do the great big assessments that maybe would feed into an assessment, through the Childhood Assessment Network, for example, that your pediatrician might be referring your child to. So definitely ask your questions around that. And we do what we can to support things, but we do a lot in partnership with our community-based therapists because the service is more limited through school age therapy than it is with early intervention. The good news around early intervention, though, is that that service can continue until your child turns 6. for occupational therapy and physio, not for SLP, but for OT and PT, if they are engaged with a child development center therapist right now through the early intervention program, those therapists will shepherd their transition into school. So we don't need to do another referral. We don't need to track down another OT or PT for you. The ones who are already working with your kids, if they are CDC early interventionists, they will facilitate that transition to school. And if ongoing support is needed, they will help the school team submit the referral and get it all sorted out. So you won't have to worry about that piece. Those services will find you. But again, it's particularly around the more acute needs at school. It's not a weekly intervention service. Okay, Alex, if we can scooch down a little bit. Yeah, so exchange of info and transition meetings are two pieces that are good to know about right now. So if you have an extensive team or even a little bit of a care team working with your child outside of school, who you would really like us to connect with, might be an OT or PT, might be a behavior interventionist, you might be working with Footholds or Blackbird Academy or something like that. If you complete the exchange of information and you provide that to your school's team, then you're giving them permission to reach out to those agencies and people where you're receiving support. I'm going to need a few more minutes, please. Thanks. Yeah. So sorry, the custodian's here already for the evening, so he'll come back in a bit. Anyway, if you provide that consent of information, we'll reach out to the people on your care team. They can come to meetings. You're welcome to invite them to meetings if you would like them to come. I know sometimes that comes at a cost to you though, so we leave that in your corner. You know, if you want them to come to the school, you can certainly invite them anytime. We're happy to have the extended teams at the school. The transition meetings are things we love to do early. If your child has complex needs and you would like the school to know about it, really any time now is a good time to call the school. I encourage you to phone your child's school directly. I often get calls at the board office. I'm super happy to answer high-level questions to give you a sense of the overarching structures and things in the district. But in terms of specific interventions, supports, routines at the school team will definitely know more about that because as Alex described, it is a little different site to site across the system. On this screen, you'll see a link to a kindergarten transition planning tool. We're in our own little bit of transition right now, so this might come to you in a couple of different ways this year. In the past, we've had one that the kindergarten teachers sent out that was kind of a getting to know you tool, and then we've had this transition to kindergarten planning tool that provided space for a little bit more detailed information for our kids with diverse abilities and disabilities. That tool is still sitting there, but you may also receive one from the school. We've kind of taken those two things and made one beautiful new universal tool for everybody. But we weren't quite finished all the revisions in time for tonight's meeting. So we've left this previous one up here for you. If you get the other tool sent to you by your school and you feel like it's duplicating information you've already submitted, don't feel you need to do it a second time. We just don't want to miss anybody and we want to make sure we get the information we need. If you have another child coming to kindergarten next year, you'll see it'll be the other tool. It'll just be the one. But in the meantime, this is a great way to let us know about sensory needs, feeding needs, mobility needs, beautiful things your children are very interested in and excited about that we can use to capture their attention and engage with them when they come to school. So please take a peek at it if you haven't received the other one from the school. And again, it can go directly to the school. The CDC therapists and interventionists have definitely helped families fill them out before. You're welcome to connect with them if you're not sure what to say, or even just directly to the school, have a conversation. We can help you do it in the schools as well. And then the My Booklet BC is one it's up to you. It's an online resource. I think it's the Family Support Institute that puts that one out, and it's a little bit more detailed, but I know some families really appreciate having a thing that they can kind of update a little bit every year and annually provide to their kids' teachers over the years. So if you haven't explored that and you like to play with technologically based storytelling and pictures and things, that might be of interest to you. I think we talked about transportation already. And then at the very bottom, BC educators speak in code for sure. We have a million acronyms for everything. We've put a few of the more common ones at the bottom so that if you end up in an email or conversation with somebody and you're not sure what we're talking about, this will give you a little bit of a window into our secret code. It's not meant to be secret, but it feels that way to people sometimes, I think. So yeah, so I feel like that might be our big spiel, and now we're ready for questions. So I don't know, Trina and Diane, you're welcome to hop on as well if anybody has anything they're wondering about. Feel free to just speak up or pop questions into the chat or. One thing I didn't touch on, and maybe while people think about whether they have questions, I'll just mention it. Families sometimes wonder how funding works for EAs and for additional services and things at school. And particularly if you are the parent of a little one who has autism and you've already been through that process and you know how the autism funding works preschool, it shifts quite a bit when you come to school. And it's another thing that families are sometimes surprised by. So there isn't a mechanism within the K-12 public education system where a specific individual education plan or identified diagnosis that a child has leads to a specific amount of money coming with their child, kind of tagged for their child's supports at the school level. What happens in the K-12 system is we have per student funding that we get for every child who's registered in the system. We have some special purpose grants, like for example, we have a community link grant. We have specialized equipment money that comes to us. And then we have the special needs grant. And how the special needs grant works is we add up essentially some of the categories for individual education plans are funded. So there's level 1, 2, and 3 funded categories. And then there's some that don't have additional funding attached at all. So we add up the sum total of how many children are designated in each of those level 1, 2, 3 areas. That gets submitted to the ministry, and that money comes back to us as a lump sum grant. Then we supplement that grant because it covers about a third of the costs that it would, when we start looking at psychs and SLPs and support teachers and EAs and resources and equipment and all of those pieces, about a third of those costs are covered by the special needs supplemental funding. And the rest of it comes from other places in our operating budget. And then at the district office, we distribute those resources out in a needs-based way to the schools. So a school principal will receive an allotment of support teacher time, of EA hours. They will know how many days a week an SLP is available to them, how many days a week a counselor is available to them. And it's up to that school-based team we talked about earlier to distribute those resources around the school. We do that for a couple of reasons. One is just we want to make sure we have equitable access across the system. We need to make sure that resources get to all of the places in the system that they're needed as best as we can. We know that just because somebody has a particular medical diagnosis or identified need, it may not match. Like we can have 2 learners who have a diagnosis of autism, and one of those students is very independent, is very verbal, needs a little bit of support with some social cueing and maybe some support with math. And then we may have another student, same age, same diagnosis of autism, who is nonverbal, requires full support for toileting, full supervision, lots of extra help, maybe 2-on-1 for some of the transitions and things that are happening in the school during the day. We want to be able to position those resources in the places they're the most needed. We also have lots and lots of kiddos who have not been through that diagnostic process yet. We don't actually have a specific report that identifies a specific diagnosis or identified need, but we can see that they need all kinds of help. And we are working with their families to provide for those needs and supports where they're required. Our needs-based allocation allows us to position our resources and supports to the places they're most needed, regardless of whether there's a formal IEP in place or not. We can still help children who are not designated in a ministry category. So it is a needs-based allocation. But that feels really different to families who are used to receiving a check where the money is specifically targeted at their child. So that's part of why we really encourage you to describe your child's needs to us, describe your hopes and dreams and wishes and worries to us, and we will work collaboratively with you to figure out how we can best support your child, because it is very individual and personalized, and it will be a little bit different site to site when we look at how they structure their routines, whether there are kiddos that make really good sense to group together for supports, whether we've created really strategic classroom placements for kiddos to allow them to have a community of learners around them who maybe have some similar interests and ways of learning and things. So yeah, so I just felt like I needed to say a little piece about that because it is really confusing for lots of families as they're starting school. So
I have a question about that.
Of course, yeah.
So my daughter is going to be the quiet one that doesn't really make any waves, but I feel like she's gonna slip through the cracks and not get the support she needs.
That's a really super good question and an important consideration for sure, because you're right. You know, if we're sitting with a classroom of children and we have some kids that their needs are very visible, they're very vocal about them, or they're physical and are, you know, leaving the classroom and needing support with safety and things, we do pivot supports to the places where we need to focus on safety. But I think we do a really good job wrapping around our kiddos who are quiet as well. I think that's the piece where over time, as we get to know them, I think we do that more organically. I think at the beginning, when your child is new to us, that's where your relationship with the classroom teacher, and if your child is identified in a category that has a case manager, like make sure that person to have really open conversation with us about that. Kids who internalize behaviors can sometimes be not just missed, but I also think sometimes stressed in our classrooms. And we don't want that for any of our learners. We want our kids to feel really safe, cared for, and seen in our classrooms. So the more you can help us get to know them, the more we'll do a better job stepping in and providing the support that's needed. And where we have diagnostic information that helps us understand why a child may be presenting the way they are, if it's about working memory, if it's about processing time or sensory sensitivities, whatever information you can help us uncover, you know, we will definitely build their program and supports around that.
Perfect. Just one other question. You said to reach out to the school to set up the transition meeting. I was told they would be calling the parents. Is that not?
Well, parents, they will be. I mean, you know, as Alex described, there's like the emails come out in the summer about the gradual entry and the startup. Sometimes if the registration has gone in with extra documentation attached to it, the school will reach out and say, we'll let you know when we're ready for a transition meeting. So that certainly does happen. But I also, like, I remember the transition of my little ones into school, and I do have a daughter with some additional needs, and it was hard to wait, right? Like I had things I really wanted the school to know. Feel free to reach out. We're here. So, you know, if you're ready sooner than you're hearing from the school, they might have to be strategic about scheduling this time of year. Track and field trip season is starting, and it can be a little wild in the schools in April, May, and June, but all the more reason to let them know sooner you'd really like a meeting. We do lots of after hours visits with kids. We sometimes do early July and late August visits with families if it's going to be too overwhelming when the, you know, 280 other children are running around the building. So please reach out. Yeah, for sure. We're happy to hear from you.
Thank you.
Terry,
Oh.
I sent you a question on the chat.
So when will you hear about the types of EA support, how many hours your child may need? So that is definitely a bit of an ongoing dance, I have to be honest. So this time of year, we will be taking a look at allocations to the schools. We do consider incoming kindergarten students that we know. We do take a look at, you know, our kids moving from grade 7 to 8, our kids that are graduating, our kids that are moving schools. It's kind of a great big puzzle that we kind of build and rebuild a number of times as we learn about shifts and changes. An initial allocation of EA hours will go to schools this spring. But it doesn't go in a like this many hours for this child kind of way. Like I will, for example, I might reach out to George Avenue Elementary and say, you will have 13 EA positions next year. And then the principal will work with the school-based team to figure out, you know, strategic classroom placements to best maximize that support, thinking about children who might be paired together, which kiddos really are going to require that highly individualized support versus maybe shared support through the day, or some of our kids need support in maybe the classroom, but they're okay in the gym, or they need help outside, but they don't need help inside. So we build that whole big picture really holistically for the school. So if your child is requiring specific support to be successful with something, it may be an EA who provides it. It may be somebody else who provides it, but it will be considered on the school's planning. And so that's another reason why these transition meetings are really helpful this time of year. I know when I was a school-based principal, I did a new EA schedule about every other day for the month of September. It was kind of a running joke that I had with the EAs, actually, because I used to put the new one on a new color. And every time they saw me coming out of the office with a colored piece of paper in my hand, they joked that they were all going to hide because I was changing their schedules again. We move stuff all the time. That's another piece that gradual entry is so very important for, right? Because we have kiddos that have had really intensive individualized support in a supported childcare setting, preschool, and they come to us and they, stuff changes over the summer. 3 or 4 months in the life of a 5-year-old is a really long time developmentally sometimes. So their needs may be really different. We've had it the other way where kids are very independent in a setting they're super familiar with, and they come to us and it's a bit overwhelming. I mean, some of our schools are 3 stories tall and they have 18 divisions and there's a lot going on. So we try really hard to be super flexible and super attentive in those early weeks and pivot supports. So what I would recommend is having a good conversation with the team about what you anticipate your child will need support with, and then talk lots with us in the fall as things are unfolding and things that are working, things that are worrying. Let us know, and we'll continue to work with you to try to adjust. It can take some time to adjust. Sometimes fit with an EA is a question too. We sometimes set schedules in motion and then we realize that, we're all human beings. And so sometimes kids gel really well with an adult that's assigned to their care, and sometimes it's not as good of a fit and we have to kind of trade things around and do some work with that. Training can take a little while. It can take a while for the occupational therapists and physiotherapists to come in. We have 29 schools and there's only, 5 OTs and 3 PTs, I think. So it takes them a while to get around to everywhere. If your child is supported with a nurse through the Nursing Support Services program, it can take them until almost October sometimes to get to all of our schools to do all the feed trainings and things like that. So EA shifts happen lots at the beginning of the year while we're doing this training, while gradual entry is unfolding. Every September, I add positions to the district. Sometimes it's 3 or 4. This year, I think we added 12 positions in the month of September across the school district based on shifting needs and what we were seeing. So I'm giving a really long-winded answer to something that's might have felt like a more straightforward question. I'm sorry about that, but it is a really complex dance and we're kind of in it all the time a little bit. Any other question?
Yes. Hello. First of all, thank you so much for conducting this session. It is really helpful because I honestly, as an immigrant, it is my first time when I have my son going to this school for the kindergarten, and I have no clue how these things work. It is completely different than the country I belong from. But my son does have some special needs. He does have some good sides, some challenges, and there are like plenty of things that I'm a little worried. We are getting supported through CDC right now, where the place he goes to, there are some people who come there from CDC who help him out in understanding, and they do provide us the analysis, and they do provide us the support. So in order to find out how school can help my son to get along very easily with other kids and feel more confident. So what I understood so far was to meet the principal or the concerned person to the school or the catchment area and find out what the school can do. Is that something I should be looking for?
Yeah, I would ask if you can pop by the school and sit down with the principal and just share some of your questions and things. The principal may invite the support teacher to join the conversation, or may invite you to have the conversation with the support teacher because they work really closely with each other. But I think it's really just, we try really to be very open and just have ongoing conversation. If the CDC has given you, like sometimes there are reports and documents and things that come from the CDC, they share them with us with your permission. They'll share them with us. So all those reports and things will come to school and the school team will have access to them.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's not super formal. Like it's okay to just pop by the school and ask to chat with somebody. If you need time to sit and talk, I would recommend phoning first to make an appointment. If you're just going for a few minutes, I think you could pretty much stop by and somebody would make a few minutes for you. But it's best to schedule conversations just because it can be really, really busy at a school. So.
Perfect. No, that this makes sense. I had all like a big piece of paper with all the questions written down, but having you mentioned that going to the school and asking about the what school can do,
So
helping us out.
Yeah, and knowing that you said you were newcomers to Canada, your family?
I mean, I came 6 years ago, 6 year ago,
Oh, okay.
into Canada, but we were blessed with our elder one 5 years ago. So now it's
Go
our
to
time to,
school.
yeah,
Yeah,
I feel like
okay.
I am going to school, and that's
Because
why.
we are also connected to the Central Vancouver Island Multicultural Society as well. And so we have support for second language and newcomer families and things. So that's why I was asking. But
No, thank you for asking.
yeah. Anybody else? I know every year we do the session, and a few minutes after it's over, there are people who have questions that they wish they'd asked or weren't sure how to ask, or 3 days from now something happens and you're wondering about it and you wished it had come up tonight. We are here, so Nicole has all of our contact information. We can definitely share it out, but please, this doesn't have to be the only moment that you use to get information. We're happy to answer questions. And if you do get an opportunity to go to a Welcome to Kindergarten event or the pizza night on Thursday, it's worth it. It's pretty, and the Strong Starts are pretty special places too, if you haven't explored those. So, any last words from the team?
Sorry.
Sorry, did you have a question for us?
Ooh. So my little guy, sweet as pie, but he does not speak. He's just starting to use an AAC device, which is for talking. He doesn't use the potty yet, and he loves to wander. He doesn't sit or anything, and I definitely feel like he would be a flight risk if he was given the chance to go by himself. So with that being said, I'm very nervous that if he doesn't have an EA to himself all day, he needs help to eat too.
Yeah. So kiddos who present with highly complex needs have personalized support, right? Like, as you were describing to me a little one who is going to need a person at school, right? He's going to need somebody who can provide him some support and who knows how to make him laugh and knows how to find the toys he really enjoys and knows how to take the time it takes to understand what his requests are. And so we'll wrap around him. I promise. Let the school know, and we'll work with you to make sure he has what he needs for sure.
Yeah, because I mean, he also does have high sensory, like he gets nervous around like high traffic people, like when it's like really busy and everything, because he's in daycare and he's been in it since September. So we're warming him up into environment, but even still, like during certain times of the day, he needs to be taken out of the class and on his own so he can just like
Totally. Well, and our schools have, most of our kindergartens have cozy corners. So it's a tent or a beanbag or a little tucked away little place. Some of our kids, that's not quite enough. So we have other breakout spaces and quiet rooms and things that kids can access. And that's actually a tool that, our little kindies need it, but actually we have kids right through into our high schools who need those quiet spaces and just to disconnect from the fray of the day a little bit. And so I think that's something that, I don't think that was something available when I was a school child or student, right? But I do think it's available in all of our buildings now. I think we're a lot more sensitive to those sensory needs and that need to kind of have a space that's yours a little bit in the day sometimes. So yeah.
And he does not like wearing the earphones, so that's kind of like out the window on that one. So he'll definitely need that quiet space.
Yeah. No, we can definitely work with you around those pieces for sure.
Awesome. And I'm also moving, so I'm not sure how to go about what school I should be contacting for registration and such.
So registration's off of our website, Central Registration. So my suggestion would be that you apply with your current address and just put a note saying where you're headed to. And then it's our Central Registration Department is really good at reaching out and following up and figuring out what to do with that. As soon as you know where you're going to, though, it would be good for us to know because that's.
I have the address and
everything.
everything.
So you know what? Do you have anything with the? If you have official documents with the new address on it, you could probably just register using those then.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah. That's part of the reason why we adjust supports in the fall, because we have families that move every single summer, and I want to make sure that all the resources are pointed at the places that are the most needed. So
yes, absolutely. Perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome. What did I miss, team? Is there anything else that we should share before we wrap up tonight?
I don't have any other questions on the chat.
I'm still just so excited to see how many people joined us tonight. This is wonderful. I think this is the best turnout we've had for quite a few years, so it's great. Thank you
Great.
so much for everybody's time this evening.
And thank you to the school district for coming and sharing all this information. I know that all of our families really appreciate it, and it's kind of uncharted territory. Sorry, 8-year-old. She waited as long as she could.
Fair enough.
So this is really great. And even for myself, I've been doing this for 18 years and had a child go through this as well. And some of this is new information I typed down to share with the rest of my team as well. So it's great. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Diane, do you have another event coming up? Did you want to mention the other, in case there's another family that wants to come, or when one of the families tonight wants to hear this stuff again a little bit?
Yeah, so we are planning another event like this just for anyone with information about kindergarten. And I think the date is May 2nd, but I will be emailing it out. Hopefully, I'm not sure how you found out about tonight's session, but we did email it out to all kindergarten families. So watch your emails. When we have all the welcome to kindergarten dates for each of the schools, we'll be sending that out as well. And then an invite to a generalized kindergarten evening similar to this one.
Great. Thank you. Well, it sounds like we might be wrapping up before it's even dark. People can go grab 10 more minutes of sunshine if they're able for the evening
That's
here.
great. Thanks again for everyone for coming. I really appreciate it. And that's it.
Okay, take care, everybody. Good
Thank
evening.
you. Take care.
Thank you. No.